Here is an update from Wethersfield in Essex, which is southeast England. And I just want to tell you, before we start telling you all about the Asylum centre that's going to have 1,700 residents, I know you've heard of that before, but let's just bear in mind, this has a population of 707, this village does, and of which 30 were born outside the United Kingdom until the Asylum centre opened up. I'm going to go through all of it. This is what is going to happen in the future of our country. Hello everyone, thank you so much for watching this video. Please do subscribe to GliveTVPodcast. They're sponsoring us. It's a new channel that I appear on, and it's going from strength to strength, releasing stuff throughout this week and properly launching in the next couple of weeks. Okay. Before we start, let's watch a little video about what's been going on in RAF Wethersfield, which has been turned now into an asylum centre. Go.
Yes, but he had 3 meals a day. 3 meals, that's his choice not to eat, guys. If he chooses not to go. Come here. Why? 2 people? 4 people? I don't know. That's not me. That's not my problem. That's not our problem. We don't decide.
He needs to sit up. He needs to sit up.
Why? It's in the way. Problem. We're in here. What? What's the problem? Problem. What's the problem?
Well, that's pretty dreadful. What they're saying is that the quality of the accommodation that they were promised when they were brought here by people smugglers was 4 and 5 star. However, they're being put on a former RAF base. There's another video by a different news outlet where somebody complains that the conditions within Wethersfield are as bad as the last time he was in prison, which of course begs the question as to why we're allowing foreign criminals over into our country. But remember the way the system works. The people smugglers come to you in somewhere like Albania and they say, pay us £10,000, we'll get you all the way to the English Channel and then we'll put you on a small boat. Don't worry, the RAF will then, the Royal Navy will then pick you up and then they will take you the rest away. And we can guarantee you the following quality of accommodation, and also that it's highly unlikely that you will be deported after you go. And the reason you won't be deported is because what you have to do is you have to both claim asylum in the United Kingdom and also say you're a modern day slave because you're now indentured to us. And what will happen is, as a victim of modern day slavery, you can't be deported back to Albania, and the benefits that you earn, you will pay us off. So not only are we the people smugglers, but we're paying the slave masters, if you believe they're real slave masters. But let's have a look at what RAF Wetherby used to be like. Go.
Planes are American, and their runway is a piece of America. How else could it support a way of life that loves the chance to forget work in preference to a game of football? And by football, we mean football with a drawl. Remember, this is England, or is it the 51st state? Never was war better disguised as sport. But wait a while, there's sanity on the way. Sanity comes in the shape of the Romford Boys Band, an army of youngsters who regularly capture Wethersfield with their stirring half-time display. A Rule Britannia and Dash It, they're spiffing young fellas. The Romford Boys Band has only one fault. every time they capture the Americans, but every time they're beguiled away from duty by, of all American creations, hot dogs. This is the end. Those Americans are so familiar. But let's face it, they're pretty nice guys. And we're bound to admit they're pretty tough guys, too. To be as big as that, Mum must have given them an awful lot of...
Well, I think it's pretty shocking, although I will say one thing, it was always a bit of a foreign land. According to that video by British Pathé, there are Getty images of the United Kingdom. It's basically the National Archive. But you can see that this was a vibrant place and clearly a huge benefit to the local economy. We see now that this place is walled off and nobody's allowed to come in. But you saw in that video, Romford Boys Band playing away. They looked splendid, didn't they? That video was from about 1964. But now let's look at the promises that were made to the people of Essex about all this. Go.
The first 50 asylum seekers to be housed at the former airbase at Wethersfield in Essex crossed the Channel by small boat over the weekend. They were brought here straight from processing centres in Kent. Earlier, cameras were unusually allowed to film the facilities inside. This is where asylum seekers will sleep, 2 or 3 to a room, where they will be provided with 3 meals a day and snacks. The gym and sports facilities they can use to occupy their time. The government's message, using surplus military sites like this is cheaper for taxpayers than costly hotels. The Home Office says asylum seekers will have everything they need on site and won't burden the resources of local communities. But in what appears to be an acknowledgement of the upset and concerns felt by some locals when asylum seekers first arrive, they'll also be given instructions on how to be good neighbours.
Everybody who arrives here goes through an orientation process to understand what acceptable behaviour is. We know that they've been through quite a lengthy journey and they're in a new environment, and it's important that they understand how to fit in and be part of the community and minimise any impact.
In the quintessentially English villages near to the base, they fought hard to prevent this day from happening. A legal challenge to the plan is continuing through the courts. Many people here say the intended number of 1,700 asylum seekers at the base by the autumn will overwhelm their communities.
A mixture of disappointment, fear amongst some, because the messages coming from the government and our own Home Secretary are so flawed, so mixed. The reassurances given by the Home Office are simply not good enough or reassuring enough for these communities.
Those who work with asylum seekers also oppose the move.
We should be treating them with humanity and dignity, welcoming them into our communities like we did with refugees from Ukraine, rather than warehousing them in former military barracks in the middle of nowhere, where it's wholly inappropriate to place them.
This is the first of a number of large sites the government wants to repurpose to house asylum seekers. It will need others if the promise to reduce small boat channel crossings remains unfulfilled. Lisa Holland, Sky News, Essex.
The reality is, the mistreatment of the local residents here is absolutely staggering. They've been complaining about people being harassed, people being beaten up. There is certainly a significant mental health problem within this facility. We cannot put up with this forever. It's really unacceptable. And the problem is, this Care for Calais group are obsessed with the belief that we should take the waifs and the strays of the world, that we should be the world's dustbin. Anybody with no skills, anybody with serious mental health problems, anybody with serious criminal convictions, people with no qualifications, people with disabilities or whatever, send them to Britain. They're the idiots who will pay. I will tell you a fact about Rome, modern day Rome. Modern day Romans are not related to the Romans of old. What happened was the Romans of old were pushed away by uncontrolled migration into Rome, and they instead now live in a country called Romania. Now, if you look at this, modern day Romanians are Romanians, much more closely related to Romans than the modern day Romans. What happened to the people that built the great Roman Empire? They got chucked out by the migrants that came in and replaced them, and got a country which in the end was not as stable geographically as where they came from originally, and ended up poorer as a result. And what did the Romans that came into the country do with Rome? Well, they took it to bits and sold it off piece by piece. It's why the Colosseum, sorry, I forgot my words there. It's why the Colosseum has been taken to bits, because they've just sold off the stone, because it's not their heritage. It doesn't really matter. They'll pull down a statue and sell it to somebody because it's not their history that they're pulling down. That is what is going to happen in Britain. I've constantly said that somebody like David Lammy, that somebody like Sadiq Khan, you know, they love the United Kingdom, but they don't love what came here before. What they believe is that the United Kingdom effectively started when the Windrush began, and now actually Britain is all about multiculturalism. The history that went before for 2,000 years is of no interest to these people whatsoever. And the more of their own people they can bring in to dilute the white population, because of course the way they see it is the way that perhaps we saw it when we went over to the United States of America. The Aborigines, if you like, must be diluted. As long as there is a majority of the indigenous population, we can't build the society that we want to build. Now, you can say, well, they're only doing to us what we did to them. Well, yes, but that was before the Enlightenment that came from knowing that discovering a new territory doesn't mean that everything that came before was dreadful. We've stepped back from the concept of empire, and yet the Albanian Empire continues to flourish and continues to build. And I can see a day, because you'd see it all the time, where there are parts of the United Kingdom that would seek independence from the United Kingdom. We've already seen Sadiq Khan talk about that with London, on the basis that they're now no longer white and therefore have a right to their own self-determination. It's a shocking thought. Essex is the first town where, when all these people get their citizenship, which they will, they'll all be able to outvote the local residents and put in whatever Islamist regime they wish. And I say Islamist simply because they're principally from the Islamic world. I mean, if they came from an area where mutti magic was popular, then no doubt they would bring in that as well, or perhaps a voodoo shaman or whatever it is that these people get up to in their own countries. That is a genuine danger to this country, but we will see it more and more and more. Till next time, goodbye.